What is tension? Before I dive into this, 2 poems that I just wrote. The first one, it's 5 in the morning, by the way. O mighty warrior, hear my call. I'm lost in the dark. I guess I'm bored. That's the first one. The second one is, did I forget to mention that inside all that tension, there is a loving me, a someone that is free? Yeah, that's simply what I would like to start with. So, I would like to describe the sensation upon waking up to you. So I think I went to bed or to sleep at about 2 in the morning, after I realized that I simply had nothing to give anymore. And I was sitting pretty much at the same spot because I just couldn't stand anymore. So I was sitting and I had my laptop on like some kind of small table, you could call that. And I first thought about reading something. And the effort of speaking was so great, so exhausting, that I couldn't do it. As much as I wanted to continue to give something, there was nothing. Nothing. I couldn't read. I had a book in front of me and I wanted to read that. And I just couldn't do it. And I thought, well, that's kind of terrible, isn't it? But I also realized, why don't you just go to bed, man? And then I started to flex and stretch my jaws. My God. Have you ever done that? Like, stretched your jaws? Boy, there's so much tension in the muscles that hold my jaws together that, apart from holding it together, it seems like they actually want to crush it. I mean, think about it. What are muscles and sinews? Isn't that a bit like the roots of the tree or something? I mean, roots can really crush. And if there's a lot of tension in your body, it's like crushing itself. Because you can have strength. If you have a lot of strength, you also need to stretch. And I just can't get myself. Because I'm at a point where stretching is so painful because I'm so tense. It's like having a really tight rubber band and you're trying to loosen that up. I mean, you have to put a lot of force into that. And that's the problem. Every time I try to stretch, I have the feeling I don't have the strength to stretch myself. I really have the feeling that what I'm really lacking is strength. But I'm not so sure. Because the other problem is that sometimes I do stretch and then I do have the feeling, yeah, it does help if I do it regularly. But to me, stretching is a real effort. It makes me tired. it makes me really tired to stretch myself. And it's so exhausting. It's like as soon as I start, oh God, I just want to stop. Because to me, it's a real effort. And I don't know how I can see people that do that and they feel, it looks like they're actually enjoying it. And then I remember I once wrote something down and it said, stretching is first pain and then bliss. Which means you have to go through the pain. But then the other question that arises is, how much of it? Like, through how much pain do I have to go before stretching becomes bliss? Because up until now, I feel like it's every time the same. Every time I want to stretch, it feels really terrible. It feels really terrible. And some people, they seem to enjoy that. Well, that's the one thing, of course. If you go through it feels terrible, then at one point, sure. I get it. But the problem is also that, because I'm so tense, I cannot stand to feel that kind of pain. I don't want to feel it. But then, on the other hand, this kind of pain is in my body. Do I really want to carry that around with me? Like, if my body is in pain, do I want to maintain that pain because I'm too afraid to face it? Because the pain is there, and as soon as I move my body in a certain way, I feel the pain. So the pain is always there. It's something I carry around with me. And if I don't stretch that out, then, I'm going to adjust my body to it. And that's literally what I see in everybody. Everybody that I see living or walking, they walk like cripples because they started to adjust their posture to the pain so that they don't feel it anymore. Right? If your neck hurts because there's a lot of tightness and fear sits in the neck, then what do? We lift our shoulders to ease the pain, but the pain is still there. And now we arch our back to give in to the pressure. But we should, stretch the pressure out. So I do feel like tension, can be too much strength. But I also sometimes have the feeling, because I'm carrying a lot of weight, emotional weight, I'm carrying that, whether I want to or not. Right? I open my eyes and I hear a bird singing. My window was slightly open, and through the shutters I could hear the song of a blackbird, which inspired me to write a song. And then I recorded that. And I was so hoping that no car would come and that I wouldn't hear anything else than the blackbird song, right? Like, this is how it is when you wake up somewhere in the forest. This is how it was when I was in South Africa and you heard nothing but animal sounds. And the sky was so clear. And then you live in this, what we call civilized world, and you realize it's a fucking hack job. You open your eyes and you just want to hear peaceful things. And what you hear is... that is far from natural. And I know that because I know how natural feels like. I've been to places, I've slept in places, in nature, where you heard nothing. And it feels weird in the beginning. But I really yearned for that. Right? I want to be somewhere where I hear nothing but nature. And I made that recording, and during that recording, 2 cars drove past my window, and in the distance I could hear more cars, right? People like speeding because, right, they think they can get rid of their tension by pressing down the pedal for acceleration. That is how people blow off steam, by making the world more toxic. People sit in their cars in weird postures. They go to work and they sit down. Yeah. With their crooked bodies, they bend over the laptop. And then they eat terrible food that makes them heavy and lazy. And then they go home. And then all they do is sit on the couch. That's the kind of people we have created at the cost of health. And for what? For making money? For seeing no value in life anymore? I was here, right? And then there's a voice inside of me that says, give them love. Just be in love. Do I feel like I'm in love right now? Does it feel to you like I'm in love? Well, in a way it feels like that. But I also feel like, anybody who listens to this deserves the truth. What good does it do if I simply say everything that's nice because maybe you think that's what you want to hear, but what you need to hear is that this world is really stressful. It's very unnatural. And the reason there's a lot of tension is because it's like humanity trying to prove that they're stronger than nature, right? We can do without you. We can kill you off and you see, we're gonna be fine. But what they don't understand is that everything is nature. You can make it as toxic as you want, but it's still nature. Only then it's toxic nature. And I have started to drink coffee again. Yesterday I drank 1. The day before yesterday I drank 2. And the day before that also 2. So I think for roughly 3 days I've been drinking coffee again. And because I haven't drunk coffee for quite a while, I can feel the difference in how I feel. So to anyone who's highly addicted on coffee, I really recommend to just tap out of drinking coffee for a while. Because what I realize is that, yes, coffee pushes me through a momentary depression, which is a low point of my life. But the problem is, if I keep drinking that, it makes me so tense, and it gives me the feeling that I have to rush everywhere, that what helped me in one moment starts to make me really sick and I think I can just let that stand like this. So just to add, right? Sometimes I want to I could have also just stopped the recording. So I sometimes do experiments with myself where I test what's actually, what kind of food is good for me, what kind of food is bad for me. And if I'm really tense, then something that is soft is actually doesn't satisfy me because I'm used to feeling tense. So it's also a transition. So if you're used to drinking coffee all the time, then drinking green tea seems really boring. But once you realize what coffee actually does in your body, because you've actually experienced it and you've distanced yourself from the way you feel with coffee, you start to realize, oh my God, I can feel this calm? I can feel this relaxed? No wonder I never managed to sit down and meditate. Because I was literally raping myself with overloading my body with toxicity. And that's the point where you have to make a decision that will put you under a lot of pressure. You know, it's like Neo in the Matrix movie. You know, you take the blue or the red pill. You know, you want to forget what you've just heard, or you want to make a choice that will change the course, the direction of your entire life. And I can tell you, you know, it's like what Morpheus says, like tumbling down the rabbit hole. You know, you're gonna tumble a lot. And you will have no idea what's going on. But that's the exciting part of it. Because I can tell you from experience that once you start to sort out your life, it will start out really heavy, but the further you come, the easier it's gonna get. So I can tell you from experience that while I have been at the point already where I was drinking coffee, it feels completely different now. Because while I'm sitting or I'm lying in my bed and I open my eyes and I hear the blackbird's song, I'm less heavy than I used to be. And instead of being my body that feels heavy and toxic and tense, you know, I can feel the coffee, how it's working in me. You know, but that's not me. You know, I don't become the tension anymore. I feel the tension, but by now I'm also strong enough to hold my own weight against that. Which means that when a depression comes, I feel the depression, but it doesn't pull me down anymore. Because I've worked out all the weight that was pulling me down. By feeling all these emotions and going through them one by one and bringing them out into the open. You know, sharing them or writing them down or putting them into images. So I realized that before I could even consider doing yoga or stretching, I first had to sort myself out. I had to take a look at all the things that make me heavy. That includes emotions, right? All these childhood trauma, memory things. Inner child work, very heavy, very important. That stuff needs to be done. You have to start a conversation with your inner child. Because it's always there, crying in some distant corner of yourself, waiting for somebody to reach out to it. You need to do that. That's heavy stuff. And then your diet, that's another reason. But it starts with your emotions. Once you start working on your emotions and start figuring out how you actually feel, things will happen on their own. That's my experience.